share a slide with you guys. Okay. So again, this is a ARPA-related program, ARPA funded, so local preferences do not apply for this. All bids are to be submitted through the Oracle system. If you are not registered as a vendor with Oracle, I will put some information in the chat where you can reach out to our e-procurement team to assist you with registering in Oracle. So that you would be able to upload your proposals. We accept all questions through the Oracle proposal system. You are welcome to ask questions here, but please understand that our responses will be non-binding. If you are looking for a binding response, we would need you to upload that by the question deadline. And then we would respond back in time based off of what we've identified as the deadline for responses in the RFP. I'm sorry, I had the RFP up and I took it down by mistake. So, okay, as I'm fiddling through that, for those of you that joined lately, this is a pre-recorded session. Again, we'd ask that you put your name and the company you represent either in the chat, or you could put it in your user profile. If you had any questions, you're more than welcome to jump in. Minimum qualifications for this particular RFP. We are requesting that you have a minimum of 2 years experience providing the services that are identified in the RFP, or 10 completed units of housing development activities, which you can identify within your proposal that you submit. This proposal is due. This proposal is due January 19th by 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We also would ask that you check your registration, your supplier profile to ensure that you are on Eastern Standard Time. If you are on any other standard time, your proposal will be considered late and we would not be able to accept it. But again, I will put our e-procurement team's information in the chat for you to assist if you have any difficulties. Just a quick overview, the American Rescue Plan Act. What is it? It was $1.9 trillion that was designated by the government to different cities in order to help combat the effects of COVID. What this means to bidders is that local preferences will not apply. That means there's no equalization as far as these are concerned. Of course, we always encourage Detroit companies that employ Detroit residents, but there will be no equalization credit or additional points added during the evaluation phase of your proposal. At this time, I'd like to turn this over to our HRD representatives to go forward. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Kelly. So good morning, everyone. I'm Elena Peterson with the Housing and Revitalization Department, also joined by Adam Kokonakis from the Housing and Revitalization Department as well. So to talk through more specifically about this project pertaining to this RFP. So again, this project is a grant program to reimburse owners of small commercial buildings who will be converting vacant second floor space into code compliant rental units. So you can see a picture there on the lower left is the type of buildings that we're talking about. Small buildings with commercial space on the first floor and then residential space on the second floor. We think this is a really cool program and it's a great opportunity for you all to be involved with it. The design of it is that these type of buildings tend to be naturally occurring affordable housing. which is great from certainly an affordability standpoint. There's also benefits to this type of program design for the property owner. So not only is there a diversification of revenue streams, but again, these buildings tend to be on or located near commercial corridors with access to lots of amenities as well as public transportation. So again, we just think these are great types of housing options for our residents. To the lower right, you can see a map of what we estimate to be these type of buildings throughout the city. We estimate there to be a little over 2,000 of them. And you can see kind of where they're concentrated, again, tending to be along those commercial corridors. The purple lines, not to get into too much of that right now, but those are just outlined traditional Main Street overlays. I believe the Joe Louis Greenway as well. The reason we have that is that the nature of this grant, how we've designed it, is that while every building would be eligible for a $10,000 per unit reimbursement, there are specific geographic locations, again, along those purple lines, that currently as designed, property owners would be eligible up to $20,000 per unit. Again, just recognizing that there's a little bit more of an emphasis on properties and those locations, given other investments going on in the city. If you can flip to the next slide, Kelly. Great, thank you. So continuing with a little bit more description of this project, as Kelly mentioned, this program is ARPA funded. So while it's still federal funding, but we just wanted to note for those of you that have worked with CDBG funding in the past, ARPA funding is not quite as restrictive as that. But obviously with federal funding, there are still compliance and reporting regulations, many of which Kelly already spoke to, but want you all to be aware of that. The specific services we're looking to procure through this RFP are administrative services, particularly for program administration, all of the tasks following conditional approval. So examples of those tasks would be financial review, formal award, entering into grant agreements with the property owners, construction management, grant payout, and grant closeout. Again, more details of the specific tasks and services are listed in section 2.1 of the RFP. What I just ran through, kind of those example lists of administrative services, that's what we consider kind of the base of services we're looking to be provided by our vendor. We are open to and looking for additional services that the vendor would be able to offer that would enhance the program and ultimately ensure our ability to meet the objective. And again, examples of those kind of additional services are also listed out in section 2.1 of the RFP. The objective for this program is resulting in a minimum of 12 code compliant rental units. We do not have a building minimum threshold. We are just focused on the minimum of 12 units. Again, as I mentioned, certain properties are going to be eligible for $10,000 per unit. Other properties are eligible up to $20,000 per unit. We do want to emphasize that this is a very tight timeline. So the contract end date will be June 30th, 2025. That is related to the city's current ARPA deadline, which is for all terms of performance to conclude by June 30th, 2025. There's a more specific schedule listed out in the RFP. I believe that's section 2.1 as well. But please note that all construction as well as a kind of evaluation and program closeout would need to take place by June 30th, 2025. And then, as I mentioned, I really only covered kind of a couple points of the actual, just one slide back. Sorry, Kelly. Just the last bullet here, the actual grant program parameters. We're not going to touch a lot of that in this meeting unless there are specific questions, but please see attachment F in the RFP where all of the, kind of program design and requirements for property owners who take part in this grant are listed out. So please be sure to review that as well. Okay, next slide, Kelly. Thank you. And I don't know if there's a way you can expand this. Perfect. Okay, so here is a process map of what this program will look like. And you can see that there's a little bit of color coordinating or color coding here happening. So the boxes in gray are what the owner would be responsible for. The boxes in green are what the city, specifically HRD, would be responsible for. And the boxes in blue are what we are looking for our administrator to own. And then we've got a few rows with the different phases of the program. So starting at the top left, with our intake phase, we have the inquiry list is open, which that opened December 1st. So the inquiry list is live on our City of Detroit HRD website. So owners are able to fill out the inquiry form with properties that they're interested in taking advantage of this program with. That allows us, HRD, to kind of review the soft inquiry form and understand what type of properties, the number of them, units, just making sure that it's aligning with our design as currently designed. We will then, HRD will open the application, which at this point we're anticipating that to be January. Owners will then submit the application with all necessary attachments, architectural reports, scope of works, estimated costs, etc. Jumping down now to the second row there, HRD will review and screen applications to make sure they meet the eligibility. With HRD inspectors, we'll conduct a site visit, review the scope of work, cost estimates, again, make sure that we think this is something that can meet within the dollar amount that we're reimbursing and within the time frame of this grant program. And then HRD will hold a selection committee to review the project and understand if again, we think it's a good fit, and then will result in properties being conditionally approved. At that point, then any properties that are conditionally approved, HRD will send that list over to the administrator, and that's really when their services and tasks start. So the administrator is going to receive the conditionally approved properties, and they're going to review the application file and potentially conduct their own site visit if necessary. They're then going to complete a pro forma review, as well as any other kind of financial reviews. And let's see, if conditions are all met, the administrator issues a formal or final approval letter. So that property at that point is approved. The administrator performs, underwriting and executes the grant agreement, entering it into the grant agreement with the owner. At this point now, jumping down to the next row, the owner themselves, again, this is a reimbursement grant, so the owner is the one who's completing, the owner is the one completing the repairs and construction. So throughout this phase, we would look for our third-party administrator to perform mid-job check-ins, ensure timely progress. So essentially just, performing that construction management with the property owner. The administrator would be responsible for, working through any issues that come up with HRD, with BC, the building department. I don't know if I've mentioned this yet, but it is clearly stated in the RFP, a requirement of the grant reimbursement for the property owner is obtaining a certificate of compliance with BC, with the building department. There are other requirements as well, but again, that certificate of compliance, the owner will not be able to be reimbursed without obtaining that. So that's why we have that clearly labeled within this process map. So again, the owner completes the repairs, they get their certificate of compliance. At that point, the administrator collects all closeout documents, and then, assuming that all conditions have been met, reimburses the property owner. The administrator then submits the invoice packet to HRD. HRD then processes the invoice packet, and at that point, the grant is closed out. So hopefully that was helpful. Again, I'd say high level is that this is a program that the administrator, again, will be working closely with the city on. The city, being HRD, really is owning the first half of the program. So intake through conditional approval, and then the administrator picks it up from that point through grant closeout.
We will be incorporating and uploading this this process map as an addendum with any questions or responses to questions that you may have. So this information will be uploaded as well into the RFP and submitted for all to view and to be able to download with the rest of the bid documents. Did you have anything to add or?
Nope, Elena hit it all from our side. I think that's it. And any other questions or comments here today, we're happy to take.
So at this point, we'll open the floor for any questions that you may have. Please keep in mind that our responses will not be binding. If you're looking for a binding response or any clarification to the request for proposal that we have out on the street, you would have to submit that through Oracle in the form of a question there. The question deadline is December 14th at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you need any assistance with navigating through the Oracle system, I've included the e-procurement team in the chat. Give you a few minutes to get Mr. Cedric McCree and Ms. Tracy Thompson's information from there so that they would be able to assist you. Also, this proposal, the deadline is January 19th at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as well. All questions are to be directed through the Oracle system. And like I said, the floor is open if anybody has any questions.
I've got a question. Are you guys, is that like a hard cap on 12 units, or is there an opportunity to go above and beyond 12?
Yes, 12 is just the minimum. So we're, certainly would welcome additional units. Keep in mind the deadline there being June 30th is the, hard deadline on kind of what the capacity would be from a unit standpoint.
Thank you. We have a hand raised.
Hi, good morning. Yes, my name is Takendria, and I first want to just say I love the process map. It is as a process, I do those things all the time, and I found that that was extremely helpful in understanding what's being asked here. So just want to, whoever decided to do that should do that for all of them. Just want to throw that out there. Just was curious to know if there was, I see the 12 units. As far as the pricing, I see the attachment C. Is that usually I see the pricing sheets attached as an Excel document? Is that the expectation? And is there any specific format that's asked? It's in there as a PDF, but I just wasn't sure what the expectation is there.
I would say, and Kelly, correct me if I'm wrong, from a procurement standpoint, we're open to, if you want to just complete that table in a Word document, if you would prefer to do it in Excel, that is kind of the bare minimum of specificity that we need. But if there's additional specificity and it's easier for you to do it in Excel, we would welcome that as well.
Okay. We would only ask that you cover all of the items that we have listed in the pricing sheet. So pricing forms can come in all formats. They don't necessarily have to be in Excel. They could be a PDF, or you could provide your own, as long as you're covering all of the bases and the key components of what we have listed in the pricing.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Did we have any other questions? Again, I will upload this PowerPoint presentation, which will include the process map and all the other additional information in Oracle, and send that out in the form of an addendum. You're welcome to ask any questions through Oracle. And if we don't have any other questions on the floor, this will conclude this pre-proposal conference, and we'd like to thank you for your attendance and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Question, is this geared more towards those like in the construction of doing the rehab, or kind of more of like a tech and platform to manage the administrative side of things, or more of like a lending and underwriting, or is it like a collaboration of all of that?
One time.
I guess, is there an idea of, what you envision kind of
it's like
running the gamut on what you're looking for?
I would generally say an underwriting side of things, and if vendors have the ability to manage, track things in a technological way and have additional benefits towards, property project managing that ensures that these get there, but ultimately looking for those main services to be, the thorough financial and otherwise underwriting of the properties, the owners, and the execution of the grant agreement, and then the monitoring that stuff gets done by the deadline. As Elena noted, the RFP does note that, if bidders think they have additional services that they provide that would, help us meet the goals here, they're happy to outline those in their proposal as well. And that's really why that process map is kind of the world as we see it today, trying to give that clarity to everyone that's attempting to bid now. But if there are, questions, those can be submitted after today. If there's potential other tasks that you want to highlight that a potential vendor could do, happy to do that in the proposal as well. But ultimately, the timeline pushing us there is part of our push to identify bidders as well. Certainly, if folks think there's additional marketing or something like that on their side, but we want to make sure that we're driving towards that deadline of these ARPA funds.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks.
And one thing just to add, I meant to mention this while we were going through the deck. So this program is modeled off of kind of two previous pilot programs, one that's currently in operation. The first one took place in, I want to say 2017, 2018. Southwest Detroit Business Association was the organization that administered the program. It was, I believe, funded through the Kresge Foundation, and they did, I want to say, 12 units over that time period. They're currently also operating a program with ARPA funding in Southwest for an additional 24 units. And again, Southwest Detroit Business Association is the administrator there. So I will say, as Adam mentioned, the underwriting is key, but also acknowledging that there will be working with, several property owners, several properties at one time on a tight timeline. So also I would say that project management is a key piece, looking at an organization that has the capacity to work with multiple property owners over multiple projects in a tight timeline. So I would say that's probably second tier to the strong underwriting criteria that we're looking for as well.
Okay, Carson, does that complete your questions?
Yeah.
Did we have any additional questions from anyone else that's on this line? Okay, well, that will conclude this pre-proposal conference, and I want to wish everybody a good day.
Thanks. Have a great one.
Thank you all.